Hello everyone, my name is Asyrafchazz and welcome back to yet another One Piece card game video. So today we are going through every single card from the upcoming ST-10, the ultimate starter deck featuring 3 captains. Now this deck specifically is made to be ready for competitive play according to them, that's why it's called the ultimate deck instead, and it features a lot of very powerful cards as well as some wanted reprints that most players would definitely need if they didn't pick it up back in the OPO1 days. So now let's take a look at every single card coming to ST-10, the ultimate deck, featuring the 3 captains. Alright, so first of all, here is the rundown of the deck itself. You can see how many copies of the cards there are. These are, taken from reference from the opening video that they did during the recent One Piece card game Japanese tournament. So this should be accurate enough. So as you can see, like the super rare Luffy, super rare Law, super rare Useless Kid, the new ones, there's 2 copies of each and some of them have a full playset. So, but now we will go through every single card individually and talk about their effect. So let's go. So alright, so first of all, this particular deck's team is the 3 captains. So there are going to be 3 different leaders coming to this deck. It's going to be Monkey D. Luffy, Trafalgar Law, and of course Eustace Kid. All of them will be red and purple, so that's a really unique color combination. And all of them have their own individual unique effects. So the first one we talk about is Monkey D. Luffy. He's a red-purple leader. He has 6,000 power, but he starts with 3 life. And his ability is activate main once per turn if your field has 0 Dawn, or your field has 8 or more Dawn. Add 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck as active. So it's a way for you to ramp up when you are at 8 Dawn, straight away jump to like 9 or even 10. And if you are at 0 Dawn, that means if through like Dawn minus effects or something, you can use his ability to gain back at least 1 Dawn if you are at 0 Dawn for some reason, which may come up due to some of the other Dawn minus effects in these cards. Let's move on to Eustace Kid. It's another red-purple leader, part of the Kid Pirates, with 5,000 power but with 5 life, a multicolored leader with 5 life. On your turn, if you have 4 or more life, this leader has minus 1,000 power. So that's a kind of a way that they are balancing it. And his other ability is when attacking Dawn minus 1, this leader gains plus 2,000 power for this turn. So maybe at the start you're not as powerful because you are at 4,000 power, but once you will hit that 3 life, Eustace Kid is back to 5,000 power, and whenever he attacks you can Dawn minus 1 and you gain 2,000 power, which means you're swinging for 7k of your leader almost every single time as long as you use the ability. Very powerful leader, but I don't think it's as powerful as Luffy and as well as Trafalgar Law, which we'll talk about in a bit. But I can definitely see some people building around this Eustace Kid. It's Eustace Kid after all. It was the golden boy of OPO1. Now maybe it's gonna come back as a red-purple leader. Alright, next up we got Trafalgar Law. Arguably, I think the strongest leader out of the 3. 5,000 power, 4 life, so your basic multicolored leader stats. Activate main once per turn, Dawn minus 3. Return one of your opponent's characters with 3,000 power or less to the bottom of the deck. Then play 1 4-cost or lower character from your hand. Great card. You can Dawn minus 3 to get rid of something that's 3,000 power less on your opponent's side of the field, and you can combine it with something like because you're in red, you can use like a round table and remove like something like a white beard or even a big mom. Bam, down to the bottom of the deck. And then not only that, you get to play out something that costs 4 or lower from your hand for free. Great card in combination with some of the other cards that will reveal. It's actually really quite good. So I do think that Trafalgar Law is the strongest one out of the 3, but I won't count the other 2 leaders out yet. Well, all of them have their own individual unique abilities, and all of them will definitely make waves in future meta games. Now the first card we're going to talk about is Sanji. Sanji is a red character, 6 cost, 6,000 power, and his ability is on play. If your opponent has a character with 5,000 power or more, this character gains a rush during this turn with counter 1,000. Great card. I think like in the late game when your opponent has some of the bigger threats out there, once you drop down this Sanji, boom, immediately has rush, you can start swinging in, put a Dawn on him, 7k power, easy. 6 costs is a very high ask for this card, just for that one ability that is situational. But I can see some red decks playing this, maybe in a bigger Luffy deck like the ST-01 Luffy, or maybe a bigger like mid-range Zoro kind of list. Maybe Sanji can slot inside this deck in particular. And next up we got Jinbei. Jinbei is a 2 cost, 2,000 power with counter 2,000, so one of the counter 2,000s in this deck. Unfortunately, they're only giving 2 copies, I believe, in this deck, which is unfortunate, which means if you need a playset of this, you might need to get like 2 copies of the ultimate deck, because Bandai gotta make that money. Anyway, his ability is Dawn 1 when attacking. Give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2,000 power for this turn. I've said this before, I think Jinbei is really quite powerful in something like a red-green law, where you can put a Dawn onto Jinbei or put multiple Dawns on Jinbei, attack with it, give something minus 2000 power, combine it with like an Otama or something like that, use your law leader's ability to shambles him back to your hand so that you have a 2k counter in your hand again, and then, you know, remove him with something else. Kind of interesting. Not sure if you know, because you have to jump through hoops to make his ability work. Besides, like Otama is just a on play minus 2k, but this is a repeated minus 2000 something, so it may make its way to some lists in the future. So next up is Monkey D. Luffy. It's the 10 cost 11,000 power super rare. It has rush, and once per turn after your opponent activates blocker, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 8,000 power or less. I do feel that this Luffy is very, very powerful. The moment your opponent declares blocks, not only when this Luffy attacks, when your other attackers are attacking or your leader is attacking, the moment your opponent activates a blocker, you get a choice to KO something with 8,000 power or less, which is incredibly powerful, especially when you're facing against someone who depends on blockers to protect their life. This is such a great counter card to that. You only get 2 copies in the deck. I don't think you might want to get more, but if you do, you need to get 2 copies, which 2 copies of the ultimate deck itself, which is unfortunate, but it is a powerful card. I'm excited to see how this Luffy impacts the meta game in the future, like in OPO 5 onwards. Alright, next up is Killer. Killer is a 5 cost 6000 power with counter 1000, and on your turn, once per turn, when Dawn is returned from your field to your Dawn deck, KO up to one of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 3 or less. Powerful effect. You need to jump through certain hoops because he doesn't have an innate Dawn minus ability. It's when you play something else, maybe when you're combining it with your Trafalgar Law leader, and then you Dawn minus 3 something, and then you, in addition to his own ability, you can KO something that's rested that's 3 or less. So it's a win. I feel like it's a win more card. I don't really think that this will see more play, but you know, when certain lists has been figured out, this could be a card that they will include and try to make work in the future lists. You gotta wait and see, but for now I think it's a little bit more of a win more card. It is a good stat line, 5 cost 6000 power, so it's definitely something you'll be playing out if you're not making any upgrades to this deck. Alright, next up is our favorite duo, Shachi and Penguin. 4 cost 5000 power with counter 2000, so you actually get 4 copies of Shachi and Penguin, which is really good. Not because Jinbei you only get 2 copies of the plus 2k, this one you get another 4 copies of this. On play, if there are 3 or less Dawn on your field, you may add up to 2 Dawn from your Dawn deck set as rested. So this is an, I would say, incredibly strong card to be played in conjunction with the red purple Trafalgar Law leader that we just talked about, because let's say you are at 6 Dawn and then you Dawn minus 3 to use your leader's ability, and then you bottom deck one of your opponent's characters, you play this Shachi and Penguin card for free and you get 2 Dawn back. So essentially it's like almost Dawn minus 1. In that situation, I think this is a really powerful card, but yeah, only in that situation, I guess. If you can cheat things out for free with Shachi and Penguin, then yeah, you can always ramp as like a little bit faster. So yeah, in Trafalgar Law decks, I mean, they are part of the Hard Pirates after all, then I think it would be quite powerful. So maybe if there's like a green purple list, I know the Flamingo is green purple, but you know, then you can use like the V-Stand Law with this. Very niche interaction, but yeah, it could happen. Next up is Jean Bart, 4 cost 5000 power with counter 1000, and his ability is on play. You may pay 1 Dawn, then add up to 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and set it as active. So it's not an on, I mean, it's an on-play ramp, but it's an on-play you need to pay 1. So essentially you can play this on your 5 Dawn turn and then ramp 1, or you can use it in conjunction with Trafalgar Law's ability as well to bring this out for free. And then if you have an extra Dawn that you can pay, you pay 1 and then you ramp by another Dawn, and it's at active, so you know you could be potentially leaving this up, that 1 Dawn up for counter. So Jean Bart, very cool card. I feel like, you know, in this red purple law it may be good. In other situations may not be as efficient as some of the other ramp cards out there. Alright, next up is the super rare Trafalgar Law from this deck. 4 cost 5000 power with counter 1000. It has blocker, and on play Dawn minus 1. If your opponent has 7 or more cards in hand, you may trash 2 cards from their hand. This is an incredibly powerful blocker with a very powerful on-play ability that you can use in conjunction with your leader loss ability, or just, you know, playing it out Dawn -1. And it's a sort of like a Whitebeard killer, because Whitebeard likes to keep a lot of cards in your hand, especially in the late game when they're holding up so many counters in their hand. This way you can just play down this law, you know, remove 2 cards from the hand. Let's say they still have like 7 or more cards, you play another one, you can remove 2. It will kind of disrupt their plays a little bit, and when the Whitebeard players have only 5 cards in your hand and they're facing down multiple attackers, may be difficult for them to come back or defend against certain attacks. So this law, very, very powerful. I feel like it's going to be the new strong purple staple, because it's just a more efficient way, a more efficient issue, you know, that super rare from, I believe, OPO3, where you know, you can discard cards from your opponent's hand. This does it, but it's so much cheaper to play it out, and it's Dawn -1, so you can play on turn 4, and it's great. I really like this Trafalgar Law. I think it's really powerful, and definitely a staple in the upcoming meta games for sure. Alright, next up we have Heat. Heat is a 3 cost 4000 power with counter 1000. On your turn, once per turn, when a Dawn is returned to the Dawn deck from your field, this character gains plus 2000 power until the start of your next turn. So in the combinations that we see, like red and purple, and all the abilities that we've talked about, Dawn minus effects are pretty common. So Heat may actually be quite a powerful card. You can put 1 Dawn in him, and then if you Dawn minus something, it's a 7k attacker right there for only 3 costs. I can see a situation where Heat, the multiple copies of Heat will be in the deck. You know, being more aggressive that way. If you know you're gonna Dawn minus a lot, then Heat will definitely come in handy. So great card. Hopefully we'll see a lot of play, you know, in the upcoming meta game as well. Okay, next up we have Beppo. Beppo is a 4 cost 5000 power with counter 1000. He has 2 abilities that he has an on play and when attacking ability. So on play or when attacking, if the number of Dawn cards on your opponent's side of the field is greater than the number of Dawn cards on your field, add 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck rested to your cost area. Beppo is very powerful, I believe. Like, you know, yeah, once again, combination with the Trafalgar Law leader, once you Dawn -3 something, and make sure that you have less Dawn than your opponent, play out Beppo, and you can get 1 Dawn back, essentially. It's a great way to ramp if you are behind with all the Dawn minus abilities, and you can, you know, not only on play, but when attacking as well. So you can attack swing in for 5k, and then if you have less Dawns than your opponent, you ramp 1. So efficient card, great stat line. It's what you want in a purple card, and Beppo, it's Beppo, so people definitely will play it, I think. So the next card is our other super rare of Eustace Captain Kit, 7 cost 8000 power. On play and when attacking, Dawn -1, up to one of your leader gains plus 1000 power until the start of your next turn. So, you know, in combination with, like, if you're using the Luffy, the 6000 power Luffy, you play this out, your Luffy's a 7k leader until the start of your next turn. That means your opponent has to kind of spend a little bit more resource attacking to it. It's almost like the 9 cost Whitebeard in a way, except that you do have to Dawn -1. Whitebeard is definitely more powerful, but this is cheaper, not as strong. I mean, it's Eustace Kid after all. But still, I think it's a really powerful effect, especially when in purple, and getting that 1000 boost of power to your leader makes your opponent kind of have to plan around it and, you know, spend more resource to attack into your leader. So I believe that Eustace Captain Kid could be a good staple in the future. I'm just not sure whether it's worth playing like a just 7 cost 8000 down on the field and then letting it sit there. There are so many ways to remove it nowadays, but we can say that about every other card on this list. I'm excited to see if people rock 7 cost Eustace Kid again, because, you know, OPO1, oh wait, sorry, the starter deck Eustace Kid, well, used to be a menace, and now, you know, maybe this will be another menace too. No, Eustace Kid needs to come back. He's not doing so hot in the manga / anime, so maybe in the card game he gets some time to shine. Alright, next card is Wire. It's a 3 cost 3000 power blocker with counter 1000, and once per turn, if a Dawn card is returned to the Dawn deck, draw 1 card and discard 1 card. I believe this is a great card. It's a great way to loot, though you do have to Dawn minus something to loot. You know, draw 1 and discard 1. But I can see it being on the field. It's a blocker after all, definitely useful, and it's a blocker with like an additional effect that, you know, can proc when you are doing your Dawn minus things. So definitely a useful purple card. Maybe it will make its way to different variations of decks as well, because it's just a generic 3 cost 3000 power blocker, but with an additional boost in effect. So I can definitely see this being played in multiple purple decks. All right, now we are moving towards the event cards of the decks. There's 3 different event cards. The first one being Gomu Gomu no Kong Gatling. It's a 5-cost event card that's main KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 7,000 power or less, and trigger until the end of your turn up to one of your leaders gains a plus 1,000 power. So it's a slightly stronger jet pistol, but it's a slightly weaker what's that, Flame Emperor, if you want to take a look at it that way. But I still think that this card would be very useful. A 5-cost KO something that's 7k power or less in combination with like Otama, the Jinbei that we talked about, and various power minusing effects. This card will definitely, you know, work well with those cards, and just like it's an easy removal right there. You know, you can get rid of a Big Mom if you have enough minus power effects on your side of the field. So I think it's a really powerful event card. Whether or not it will see the many play, because now Jet Pistol is kind of dropping off a little bit because there's a lot of other more efficient ways of removal, like, you know, minus power, Marco the Phoenix, something like that. But this, you know, could make its way into certain decks. I'm pretty sure it will make its way to certain red decks in the future. The next one is Punk Vice, a 3-cost event card. Its ability is main, rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 2 or less, and then add up to 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck set as rested. Its trigger ability is add up to 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck set as active. So it's a great way to kind of ramp up if you need to. Also a great way to kind of rest one of your opponents at 2 costs or less. Although I do think there are a lot more other cards that can do that in a more efficient way. But, you know, maybe this is just something you can use to ramp up, and it's not as strong as some of the other event cards out there, but it's a good addition to any purple deck if you want to use it. The next card we're going to talk about is Gomu Gomu no Giant Thrust. It's a 1-cost event card with counter up to one of your leader or character gains plus 2,000 power during this battle, and then KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 2,000 power or less. You know, I can see this being used for sure in like definitely some other like red decks that kind of want to counter against maybe Zoro lists out there, because there's a lot of searchers out there that's 2,000 power. It's an easy way to get rid of it. Plus, you don't have to expand like, you know, your plus 2k counters, plus 1k counters. If you have this, the number of like 1-cost plus 2k counters have been kind of varied recently. You know, a lot of them in green are being used because they can restand your characters. This might be a good way to get rid of some of the smaller characters on your opponent's side. So I can definitely see this, you know, being used in the future, maybe like a couple of copies in red decks. So that's great. I mean, good 1-cost event card, not too powerful like red always has been, but just, you know, good enough that it may see some play. And then the last 2 cards of the deck are actually reprints of cards that we know and love. So the first one is the super rare Zoro from OP01. This is the Rush Zoro, 3-cost 5,000 power with Rush. Just an efficient all-time MVP in a lot of red decks, you know. And now it has updated artwork. So this is just incredibly beautiful looking art compared to the OP01 super rare counterpart. I mean, the alternate art, of course, Akira Egawa takes the cake, but this one is a close second in my opinion. And if you want to, you know, bling out your red decks, then this is definitely one that you can pick up to just get the playset of the Zoro. I think it's worth it if that's that you want to upgrade your Zoros to have this artwork. It looks really nice. And of course, the next one is the 1-cost 2,000 searcher Nami from OP01 with brand new artwork. Of course, you can't replace the alternate art, but this is a very close second as well. I love the artwork on it. And if you want to bling out your deck, because all of these will be foil, then yeah, this is great news for those of you who want the different artworks and want to bling out your red decks. Now, each one of these ultimate decks comes with a full set of 10 foil Dawns, which is something that we don't really see in starter decks, but it's a great addition for this particular deck. And also a deck box with the box artwork on it, which looks really cool. I'm excited to kind of pick this up because I want the deck box itself and also the foil Dawns to use in future decks. But there you go, every single card from ST-10, I believe that's every one of them. If I missed any, please let me know in the comment section below. I do think that the power level of this deck is definitely stronger than all the other starter decks that we've seen, because we have a lot more unique SRs that can definitely impact future meta games. But still, they're reverting back to, I mean, like, besides the Zoro, every other super rare is a 2-off, so if you do need a playset, you do need to get 2 of the ultimate starter decks. Of course, Bandai needs to make that money, man. But I still think that having a deck with 3 different leaders, it's very, very cool, and red-purple is a color combination we've not seen before, so I'm excited to see the impact it has in the upcoming metagame. I do think that Trafalgar Law is the strongest one, but don't count out Luffy as well. I do think that even though it starts with 3 life, it could be a force to be reckoned with. But I will be opening up this product once I get my hands on it, once I come back from my quote-unquote honeymoon. Yeah, we're gonna take a look at the cards themselves, and hopefully we get to open them real soon. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hopefully this has proved useful to someone who's intending to pick up the ST-10. I do believe it's a worthy pickup. It's a really, really cool deck, and definitely cards will impact the metagame in certain ways. So I'm excited about that. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.